So I'm recording this the day before I go and see The Rise of Skywalker. And I don't know what I hope to get out of this. I think I'm just trying to, just get some of my thoughts out there before, get them on the record. So that I'm not necessarily trying to recall after the fact how I felt going in. First and foremost, I want to like this. I want to like this movie. I thought I was going to like The Last Jedi. It was about halfway through the movie when I realized I wasn't enjoying it particularly. And this one obviously has more baggage because I'm going in having not liked its immediate predecessor. But I want to enjoy this. Now, at time of recording, and also tomorrow when I go and see it, I have not and will not have seen, read, or heard any reviews. I am aware of the Rotten Tomatoes score, not because I looked. I actually don't go on Rotten Tomatoes anymore, but because videos talking about it came up in my recommendations on YouTube, so I couldn't not find out. But I haven't checked out any specific reviews, so I don't know what's being said about what works or what doesn't. I don't want I want to come in the most uncluttered headspace I can. However, there is one massive thing that going in, I do not think there is a way, anyway, for this film to do this one main thing that it's doing and work. And that's bring back Emperor Palpatine. For me, for my interests, my preferences, and speaking only for myself, I hate this. I hate that he's coming back. I hate it so much. And I cannot, and I will grant I am not the most intelligent person in the world. I'm not the most creative person in the world. And I would like to think that the people behind this movie could think of things that I couldn't, but I cannot conceive of a way of his coming back that doesn't piss me off. He flat out just survived. That'll piss me off. It's a clone. That'll piss me off. It's a Dark Force ghost. That'll piss me off. I cannot come up with a version that doesn't annoy me. And I feel like a lot of Star Wars fans my age are at least rolling with the concept. I mean, we'll see what the execution is. Execution is always everything, whether you think the idea is a good idea or a bad idea. But I feel like there's a lot of Star Wars fans of my age who roll with the idea because it basically was in the expanded universe stuff. I think they had clones or attempted clones of the Emperor or something like that in the comics or the novel. I don't know. I never got into the expanded universe. And crap like that was a big part of why. At the end of Return of the Jedi, the good guys won. They won. Except that if Palpatine is alive or came back, then they didn't win. The victory of the heroes and the characters who I grew up on and I love was fake. And for me personally, no degree of how difficult it was or how long it took him to come back will mitigate that fact. Him coming back, it sucks the joy out of the victory and Return of the Jedi. Now, not everything pivoted on Palpatine. Obviously, Luke and Vader's connection, catharsis, everything going on there, that still plays. But every other character who was involved in that wasn't there for Vader. They were there to deal with Palpatine. Han, Leia, Lando, Wedge. The entire rebellion was there to deal with Palpatine. And now it was all pointless. Because he's not dead. Or he was able to come back. Either way, I don't care. And I actually also think that it removes my interest in the previous two films. In The Force Awakens, in The Last Jedi. Now, granted, I didn't really like The Last Jedi. But a lot of people did. A lot of people really loved how it was doing its own thing and taking Star Wars in a new direction. I didn't like that direction, but I can't necessarily fault it for trying. But now, at the end, at the conclusion, you're going to cycle back to stuff that you have spent the last two movies trying to build off from, trying to build away from, trying to forge your own destiny. Then you just circle back at the very end. It turns this new trilogy into a cul-de-sac. It's a narrative dead end. It's a freaking roundabout. We're just circling now. Little nostalgia circle jerk. And look, Star Wars coming back was always going to be nostalgia driven. Duh. But part of the reason I'm doing this video, and part of the reason I'm putting it up in the break room as opposed to in the main channel, is that I'm hoping to get some of these criticisms out of my system now so that when I see the thing and I do the review proper, I don't have to dwell on this point as much because I'll already have talked about it and I can direct people here. I can just talk about, yeah, I didn't like it. You can see that video as to why. Or maybe I can point out, I didn't think I was going to like this thing. You can reference that video. But hey, they somehow found some way to make it work for me. Which would be incredible. I don't expect it. There's a lot riding on this thing. And I don't know if people properly appreciate how much. Because the way they've built this new trilogy is to have enough dangling things, both narrative and sort of character detail threads that aren't clear, that have information waiting to be filled in, that aren't concluded. And the first two films kind of rode to a certain degree on, yeah, stick with us to see how it ends. But if that ending feels like it wasn't worth it, it does take some of the joy out of the previous films, even if you liked them at the time. I mean, there's a reason people still complain about the finale of Lost. There's a reason I think it's going to be a very long time before Games of Thrones fans stop calling for the heads of Benioff and Weiss. Because those were billed as these continuing stories. Stay with us to see what happens. But then you see what happens and it wasn't worth the investment. And then you can't go back to the earlier stuff because it's doing this forward momentum to something you didn't like. By contrast, nobody really complains anymore about the finale of Seinfeld, which wasn't very good. It wasn't awful, but it wasn't very good, and it was a weak send-off for the show. But nobody cares anymore because that was episodic. So you can watch any previous episode of Seinfeld. It doesn't get the legs cut out from under it because, oh God, well, it's going to end up like that. That's the risk you run with something this serialized. If you don't stick the landing, suddenly the journey isn't worth revisiting. Because the destination sucked. It's why I can't go back and watch Dexter. I used to love that show. But the last season just doesn't work, and the final episode is so bad that it's hard for me to watch even the good seasons. And that thing isn't even super serialized from one season into the next. But it's still serialized enough in that sort of, you're always going to wonder, how are things going to end for this character, that to know that it ends that badly, I don't want to. I don't want to. A lot rides on this. And we'll see what I think. And like I said, part of the reason I want to say these points here is because these are the thoughts that I have going in. And I want to put them on the record now so that I don't have to bog down too much of the proper review with them. But I'll see it tomorrow. Review will go up Saturday. And we'll see. We'll see how many more videos I feel the need to make on the subject of Star Wars. Because I had to follow up on Last Jedi several times to clear my system of that. We'll see what happens. I suppose in the meantime I can catch up on The Mandalorian. I think I'm 1 or 2 episodes behind. So there's that. I'm nervous. I'm nervous in the same way that I'll be nervous seeing The Batman with Robert Pattinson when it comes out. Just the recent track record of the people behind it, studio mostly, and the more recent entries featuring the character, I'm going to be nervous. And I'm nervous for this. Fingers crossed, and may the Force be with you.